My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. Welcome, everyone. Today we have John Smith. He's going to tell us a little bit about his spiritual journey and some hauntings he's experienced. I hope everybody enjoys.
In a little town, well, it's not necessarily little, but it's a town just outside of Hartford called Manchester. And when I was a child, there was a lot. My mother is very intuitive towards the supernatural type things. She's had various out-of-body experiences, not within the past 25, 30 years, but it used to happen quite frequently, especially in a certain house that we lived in at the time. There was really no known history about the house. So many people had moved in and out of it that no one could really make sense of it. And I say this because we researched it later. But just a lot of strange occurrences would happen. And a lot of time they were centered around me as a child in the house. So my parents always felt that, it wasn't something about me, but maybe I was attracting things, otherworldly things.
Okay.
And so I could go into some specific stories, but there was just incidences of supernatural things, doors opening. Here, I'll give you a case. The entire family, I was probably about 4 years old at the time. My older brother was 9, and my parents. This would have been about probably 1973. And the family was sitting around the dinner table in the kitchen, and I don't so much remember the incident itself. I remember sensing and feeling everyone's actions and emotions. And what happened was that our outer door to our porch swung open and then slammed shut. And then about the same amount of time it would take someone to walk 10 feet, the interior door to the kitchen opened up and slammed shut. And then directly in front of that door was a door going down into a basement, and it opens the opposite way. It opened up and slammed, and then opened up again. And I can remember my parents sitting there, and everyone's mouth was just agape. My brother, I can remember his eyes being wide. Now, I don't remember myself, the doors opening and closing. Like I said, I remember their emotions, and I remember my mom saying to my father at the time, honey, should I shut that door? And he said, I'll get it. He got up and he shut it. Now, things like that went on all the time. Misplaced items being found in the strangest places. But the incident that really sticks in my mind was there was a carriage house that sat just a little bit up on a hill, probably about 75 yards from the house, and there was a concrete asphalt path leading up to this carriage house, which served as our garage. Now, there were a lot of items left in the house when my parents took possession of it, and there was an old Victrola there, phonograph player. It was in beautiful condition, and one of my first times I realized that something isn't right with this house, or there's something else out there. I was probably about 7 years old, and I had a dream of me walking along up the path to the house, or to the carriage house, and I left the door open as I walked in, and I lifted the lid of the Victrola, and the record began to play. It was the wind-up style. You had to wind it up. And I stepped back and looked at the Victrola, and then a noose fell down in front of me, went about my neck, pulled tight, and then started lifting me off my feet. And I can remember reaching my hands up to grab the rope and kicking my feet wildly, and hanging there for a moment, and then waking up. Now, I was 7. I'm pretty sure I was 7 at the time, and I had never seen anyone hanged. I didn't know that when people were actually hanging, that they would kick their feet. And, I was 7. I never really thought about it. Mm-hmm. But as the years went on, I really feel that incident was kind of telling me that something happened in that house. Someone unhappy, and I'll clarify what my belief is in just a few moments.
Okay.
But there were other incidences in the house. My mom brought home a work friend. They were going out to meet their husbands someplace else at a restaurant. And I can remember the woman's name because we were there. There was a babysitter there for us. And the woman went upstairs to take care of her hair in the bathroom before they went out. And I was down in the living room myself as just a youngster, and the woman just all of a sudden, she rushed into the living room, grabbed her coat, and just bolted out the door and got in her car. She peeled out, and my mom was calling her name, following after her, standing on the porch, and she took off. I didn't talk to my mom for a couple of days, and my mom was trying to get a hold of her and find out what, just exactly what was going on. The husbands were looking to meet them and everything. And she finally just said that, I was combing my hair, and as I looked in the mirror, there was a man standing there, an angry older man, she said, or a man with an angry look on his face, she said, and just glaring at her, standing right behind her in the bathroom. And she said it scared her so bad and was so vivid that she just could not be there any longer, grabbed herself, and she left.
Wow.
And so I've often wondered about this, she said an old man. I've often wondered, what was actually in the house. And let's see, there were some other instances of my mother at this time. My dad was working for a major aircraft manufacturer, and he worked second shift quite often, and so my mom would put us to bed. And she said that one night my father came home and he got into bed, and she had left the TV on. And as you know, in those days, after 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, the TVs went to static. And she said that the TV popped and turned off on her. It was snow, and the pop woke her up, and that what she could see in the room was three dark figures standing, and one kind of moved closer to her and then in a way knelt down to kind of look at her face as the second one, she said, walked over to my dad's side of the bed and did the same thing to him. So it was kind of interesting. She said that the only thing she could do and think of doing was to just cover her face and pray. And she said she did that for about 15, 20 seconds, maybe longer, who knows. And she pulled the blankets down, and they were still there, only they were in their original positions. And she said she covered her head up and kept it covered for the entire night till morning time, till she felt safe enough to get up. Now, that would usually, my bedroom was right next to theirs. And at times, my parents would hear me playing in my room. And at the time, Matchbox cars were very, very popular. They were very heavy, very distinctive. And this is an old colonial home in Manchester, Connecticut. So when you play with those Matchbox cars on wooden floors, the sound is very obvious. And so they would be downstairs, and they would hear me just having a good old time up in my room, and cars whizzing across the floor, and they would check on me, and I would be in bed, and my cars would all be lined up at my bed. And now that happened half a dozen times, they said. They would be in their bedrooms and think they hear me out in the hallway, and they would check, and it wouldn't be me. They would look, and I'd be perfectly safe in my room. There were some other instances of my aunt was staying in the room with me when she had come to visit. She'd come from the south to visit us for a week or two. She was staying on a twin bed in the room I was in, and she said that strange goings-ons always happened in the room around me. And then one time when my mom, during this time, my mom had a specific out-of-body experience where she said she was above the city and following fire trucks that were going to a fire. She said it was an amazing sight to be able to see it from that angle, the colors and everything. And then she said she felt the need to get back to me, and so she did instantly, she said, and she was trying to cover me up because I was uncovered at the time. And her sister, she says when she looked over, her sister is in the corner with the blanket pulled up, looking terrified. And she later said, my aunt asked her the next morning, why were you in the wall last night? So that's kind of a interesting little story as to it's always been felt that it's centered around me for some reason. Granted, my mother has almost that psychic ability, but I seem to be the focal at times.
You believe that they might be kind of drawn to you?
Well, and yeah, and I don't know if I want to say that. I don't know, and I don't want to make an assumption, and I'll clarify that more in just a moment.
Okay.
But so we moved to Michigan in 1976. we've traditionally lived in older Victorian homes. That's just what was sought out. Usually an older home. My parents grew up the children of coal miners in West Virginia in company housing, and you're talking maybe at the most, no matter the size of your family, probably about 950 square feet to 1,000 square feet, just say, for a family. So they grew up in these really small homes. And I think once they got the means, that they decided, hey, we're never going to live in small homes again. I don't have to think that. I know they've said it. But and I tell you that is because I would always find it strange when we were looking for homes. We moved several times, but not extensively in the area. We moved from Connecticut to Michigan, and then Ada, Belding, Greenville. But in Ada or in Belding, we lived in 3 homes, and so it was just moving around in homes like people typically do, I guess. And my mom, I would always go with my parents. All those kids did when they would go look at a house, and my mom would always say, this is a good one. I'd always be kind of skeptical about that. I'd be like, what does she mean? This is a good one. Yeah, it's a good house. But she's told me that's her way of saying it's clean. She doesn't get these vibes from this house. And I didn't develop that, know what she was talking about until I started getting into my teenage years. About 15, 16 years old, I started being more sensitive to my surroundings, mm-hmm. and specific instances of danger, and just overall feelings of it's really hard to put into words. It's just overall feeling of there's something else. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm babbling here, but it's almost like when you know for certain someone is in the other room, even though you can't see them, but you know that person's there. It's almost that type of feeling.
Kind of like the feeling you get when you're being watched.
Yes, exactly. And so there were times that that I would get those feelings, and it really started to manifest itself. I want to say around the age of 16. About the age of 16, I really picked up on what it was. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I didn't know it, but she was into witchcraft and that type of playing around that I looked at the time that teenage girls do. And I've often wondered at times, was that the catalyst, the point that made me realize that, okay, this is something else. And I've never really looked at it. And I would like to say that, growing up, we've always grown up as a Christian family. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was a Baptist preacher in West Virginia, and he was a coal miner also. And so we've always had a fundamental belief within our family. We attended church regularly, and so that foundation was always there. And I say that to just explain that at that time, I kind of knew that this girlfriend dabbling in witchcraft. She was seriously into it. It wasn't just like a cursory fun type of thing.
Yeah.
And I felt very uncomfortable with that. I was uncomfortable with her, her home, that type of thing. And so as I started getting older, thinking about ghosts and hauntings and that type of thing, I come to believe that it's not necessarily ghostly or hauntings. It's that true preternatural evil, and that it's something else that, be it the devil,
Mm-hmm.
call it what you want, that there is a dividing line in life and in the other realms that we can't see of good and evil. And I just would say I seem to have a sensitivity to the evil side. I'm sensitive to it. I don't agree with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I can sense it. Yeah.
One question is, what exactly did you think it was one entity in particular, or do you think it was multiple? That
I believe it to be multiple.
Okay.
I don't. With the incidents at the home in Connecticut, I believe that to have been possibly, a single entity,
Mm-hmm.
but in no way, or single or multiple entities, but in no way working on their own.
Uh-huh.
That within, whatever structure, that it's not independent of itself wherever you encounter it. Now, is that based geographically or person to person? I don't know. But I don't feel that. I almost feel like it's a hive mind.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
In that respect.
Uh-huh.
And now, the majority of instances with me myself, I worked law enforcement. I will say there were times in dealing with mental health calls,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. Where I would have a partner or someone would make an offhand comment at a scene or something,
Mm-hmm.
that that person's crazy, or they're a bug. That's slang for a crazy person. That I would think to myself, in dealing with them, no, that's not. I don't necessarily think that's crazy. It's more demonic,
Okay.
and because that's what I would sense. There are times when you look into someone's eyes, and there's a difference between the vacantness of drugs and alcohol, or whatever, or a medical issue, as opposed to someone who looks at you with eyes that is an alien body to
Mhm.
that person. And if someone asked you to explain yourself at that time, what you meant, you would just, do you see what I see, is the type of thing.
Yeah.
So I do apologize. thinking about a lot of things.
Oh, no, you're fine.
And so as time went on, people would ask me to help them out with just be it, maybe a small crisis in the family. It could be anything, but, knowing my faith and, just knowing me, hey, would you help us out, or so-and-so sick, would you go see him, that type of thing. I just got into being known to the people close to me. Hey, if lack of better phrase, if you think your house is haunted,
Yeah.
talk to John, and so I started doing that. It seemed to happen more often, more and more often. I kept it very, very, very quiet. And I don't want to say abilities, because I believe everybody has abilities to some respect.
Mm-hmm.
But kept it quiet, and it's not really something you can talk with people about. And it's not something I like to, wear on my sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say it's embarrassing. I don't really have a word to describe it. But anyways, I'll just go on. So as I've gone on and I've seen more and more things, people say, well, my mom, she passed away a year ago, and I woke up and Mom was sitting at the end of the bed, and I know it was her, and it was so comforting and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I know these families and everything, and then I'm like, I'm not getting that feeling. I'm not getting that warm, cuddly feeling that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I would never do that to dispel someone's belief, but I would always be very, very suspect of it. And as time's gone on, I've noticed that more and more it doesn't so much seem to be hauntings or ghosts or spirits. There again, it seems to go back to that cosmic battle of good and evil. That this is an evil alien intelligence, and I put it that way because if you cloak it or explain it in a form of Christianity,
mm-hmm. people
usually have, a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
Like, oh, great, I'm talking to a Bible thumper. Gee, that's what I need to hear. Yes. No, it's not that at all. And even so, maybe you should look at it closer, because that is the battle. And that's what I've come to notice, that it seems to be just more of a let's see, I believe I wrote to you, I keep the Roman ritual around. Now, I just had a close, dear friend lose his wife of 31 years. She passed away very quickly to an aggressive cancer. And when I say aggressively, I'm talking 14 days notice. And he stated that because he felt that everything moved so quickly and there was such a dynamic in the house at the time of just energy, that he felt that she didn't move on and she wasn't happy 3 days after her funeral. And, I said, okay, well, explain to me and let me know what's going on, and I know him well, but I wanted to hear him tell me. And, he's, would you come over and, cleanse the house and everything? And I explained to him exactly what I would have to do. Usually in each room, a reading of the Roman ritual, the specific prayers, and the spreading of holy water or salt. That type of thing is just a cleansing of each and every room. And explain that to him. And, we're still talking right now. I haven't decided whether he's going to have it done or not. But he's kind of confused in respect to, why would she bother me if she were still here or if it was her. And is this something that he needs to talk to me about?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry if I'm not being very clear.
Oh no, you're doing just fine.
And we are still talking about that and whether it needs to do that. But in the course of that discussion with him and things, I got out my copy of the Roman Ritual. My wife really, really dislikes it. Dislikes when I help people out. And not that she doesn't want me to, but because of what happens to her. Just recently, like I was saying, I'd gotten out the ritual because I wanted to look through it. He had just left. I got out the ritual and I wanted to look through it and just acquaint myself and which prayer would I read. And then I put the book up. My wife saw it, and I just went over and I put it on my shelf. And the family has been sitting around later after dinner. We're watching the movie. And from 15 feet away, on top of another shelf, sits a pair of my sunglasses. And they just flew off that into the center of the room, right in front of us, in between us and the TV. Everyone just kind of like, what in the world was that? Mm-hmm. The kids didn't say anything, but just kind of, like, what? And looked at them. And my wife looked at me immediately, and she knew. And I just said to her, just ignore. One of those things that I find was that was me talking about that type of stuff. Did that bring that negative energy into our home? And my wife feels it does because of the things that have happened to her. I was away doing something one time. We were just married. This would have been probably 1999 or so. Mm-hmm. We were just married, and I had my cat, our cat, and my wife, the cat would always watch my wife do her hair and makeup. And my wife said that she's doing her hair, and she turns around, and there is a dark figure standing in the doorway of the bathroom looking at her. And that when she gave a yelp of startlement, that immediately it moved very quickly and seemed to go up into the air and go into the ceiling. And she said the cat saw it too because the cat chased after it. And I said, well, you got to be, no, I didn't, I didn't believe her.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the things I remembered, I'm like, oh, why would it go up and through our ceiling? And it wasn't until shortly after that I remembered that before this house was renovated, that's where the staircase was. And they moved the staircase to the other side of the house and made the base of the stairwell bathroom. And I never told my wife that because, there again, she gets angry when I do that type of helping.
Yeah.
There's... Sorry, I've just thought about this, but 1,000 things are now coming into my head, so I do apologize.
Oh, you're okay. I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What, being in the law enforcement, did you ever come across anything that seemed beyond the human capabilities? Did they ever do anything that just seemed way beyond what a human should be able to do?
I cannot say, the ubiquitous levitating and speaking in other languages not known to them. Nothing like that at all. But knowing evil gives off a vibe or a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And and as I look more and more into this, I find that things resonated, frequencies, and the realm that we can't see is resonating at a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only occasionally, do we really get that full force of it. However it comes through, it could be someone innocent being physically damaged in a riot. That is just unbelievably inhuman. And then you can see just total depravity and feel it, and just get a sense of it. It's like it's anger, it's hatred, and it's not because of any one thing with you. It's just all of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you. And there again, and I always fall back on my spirituality, my faith, and everything, and look at it from that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that might be the I need to just have another dynamic view from another angle. Not that I want to, but to understand it, or I can say I understand it perfectly in my thought, my belief structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I do apologize for rambling about that for some time. I do.
Oh, no, you're fine. You explained it perfectly. And you say you said you're kind of attuned to kind of the evil. I'd say evil, but I'm not really sure how to word it. If you can,
it's more, and I've only just started, but it's more of empathic.
Mm-hmm.
Being an empath.
Okay. And do you think?
And,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
And do you think that grew based off from experience of having interactions with that, you grow stronger in that way?
I don't know. I've often wondered, and my mother, my mother has a lot of the same traits. So I've often wondered, is this something that is blood related? Is it something that can be handed down? And, throughout history, the seventh son of a seventh son
Yeah.
was thought to have, special abilities. I'm not claiming anything like that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that is there something to, is it a trait that gets passed on, like anything else?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Too bad there's not a way to genetically figure that out.
I know. And so I guess my theory stops right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's something my mom and I we really haven't talked about any of the things that went on, when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
In the past 15 years, it's just taken as granted now that we have that sense. A German Shepherd can smell a fraction of a scent of what a human can smell.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same with, empathic or intuitive things like that?
Yeah.
Now, can I pick the lottery or figure out a riddle? No. But it's just more of being able to, I guess it's an empath and empathetic, empathize,
Mm-hmm.
The ability to feel those things. I'm just free thinking right now. I apologize.
No, you're fine. And do you believe you can actually sense people's emotions as well, for people who don't show it very well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, that's always been a somewhat of a thing, and the ability to walk into a room and just kind of gauge people on an individual level very quickly and adjust yourself accordingly.
Okay.
And it's served to help in the law enforcement and the military. It served me well.
Okay. And got a question. Gonna backtrack just a hair.
Okay.
You said you believed it's kind of like the evil, the spiritual kind of stuff. It's kind of like a hive mind. You kind of described it.
Yes.
Do you think, being a Christian, I'm a Christian as well. Do you believe it might be multiple things taking? I don't want to say orders from one being, or do you think it's all kind of just? I don't know if that's.
Is it like the Borg on Star Trek: Next Generation?
Kind of, yeah.
I believe it's the central entity of evil, and there's only one. And so do you want to call it Satan? And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
When you
I
strip
agree.
it all down.
I agree with you.
That's, you either have God or you have the exact polar opposite in every respect.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying God being love and mercy, grace. Well, what are those opposite things?
Okay.
is what I believe.
Okay. And when you first started noticing that it was ill content, I guess it didn't mean
Yeah.
it didn't mean good. What was the big giveaway when you first noticed that? I guess.
Well, my early teenage years is when I started to sense in people, and I started just sensing things in people, like there's just something wrong with this guy. You meet someone, and just think, you know what? So there's just something off about you. And, I would have a feeling I kind of knew what it was. And I noticed it got stronger as my teenage years went on. And that was a big deciding factor, because it, I think, kept me out of danger at times. Quite often as a teenager. I would say, yeah, it did. When things just didn't feel or look right, it was just like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in the car.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And I knew what it was. I don't want to say I knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what it was with me. That, no, this is wrong. And there's just something wrong here.
Yeah.
Do not go.
You knew what it meant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I really do.
Hey, no problem. And I do apologize, because I just all of a sudden started getting hit with a lot of things I hadn't thought of in years.
Oh, that's all right. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. I hope you all have a great night, and I will see you on the next episode.
Talking to you.